Welcome back to Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elizabeth Dawson, and let's get excited because it's season number 5. We're in 2021, and we're very excited for the future. So we have a great guest that's going to be on the show today. Her name's Amy Scruggs. If you've heard her name before, you can Google her. She is very well known out there in the media world, as well as she's an incredible vocalist and just a joy. And I think that you're going to really love her message. And it's basically a little teaser here to stop having fear when associated with money and your relationship with money. So stay tuned. We'll be right back and we'll start that interview with Amy. Have you gotten a copy of our book, Wealth by Design, yet? If you haven't, please go to Elizabeth with an S, Dawson.com, and you can actually order a copy of the book right there. It'll take you right where you need to go, and you get your copy. If you have questions about that, please give us a call at 619-640-2622. We'll help you and guide you along the way as well. Welcome back to Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elizabeth Dawson, and we have our guest today, Miss Amy Scruggs. And she is a media coach and a TV host as well. And she's actually got something exciting that she wants to talk about, that she actually is going to have a book that's going to be released this year. So I'm not going to take her thunder away. I want her to explain everything that's going on. But we're thrilled to have Amy here. And again, we have so much to talk about. Well, welcome, Amy. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you again. I'm so thankful to be here.
Yes.
Just great to see you back, in the office, and I wish we could have been face to face, but that's okay.
I know, I do too. And we're going to kind of go back and back and forth here a little bit. But so Amy, there's a couple of things that were on your mind that you wanted to talk about when it comes to the relationship with money. And I think that it's also something where you feel that there's some fear. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think I always had a tendency to have fear when it came to money, and it's taken all these years for me to even identify it. It's been this
Yeah.
even the last year or two that I'm identifying, why am I creating the same patterns? Why do I see the same things happening? Why do I feel like I never move forward? And I realized there was so much fear based. And as I looked back, I thought back to even my childhood of realizing that I don't remember my parents really talking about money. When they paid the bills, it was very secretive. They went into their little office, closed the door. We were very well provided for, but I didn't understand how that was managed. What
Sure.
choices they had to make so that we were well provided for, what was going on, in those decisions. It was just, we were kind of kept in the dark. And then I went into adulthood very early. I had a son very young. And so here I was, a young mom, as an adult now, without any of those tools, let alone the other tools I was missing. But financially speaking, I was hand to mouth, paid the rent, whatever little bit went to groceries, spent a little bit here and there, and never even knew how to budget what little I had then. So how, as I grew into careers into my 20s and 30s and 40s, was I supposed to know how to do that? And I think that's what I realized. I always was afraid there wasn't enough. Times that we struggled, times that we didn't have enough, tremendous loss during the financial crisis, and everything went back to fear. Then if you get a little bit, then I'm fearful again. So I've inhibited myself from any growth because it was all coming from a root of fear.
So you mentioned something which I think is really important, because as a money coach, there's a topic that we go through, and the money coaching process is really from childhood. We learn that our parents do certain things. We don't necessarily know why they do certain things, but like you had said, they were very secretive about money. They were very quiet about, what the sacrifices that they had to make, the work that they had to do to be able to provide life for you, but you didn't necessarily understand why. And we are finding scientifically that there is so much to be said about that, because our roots start with our childhood years. Even though our parents maybe don't think that we understand, that's really where we can break the chain for our children, so that when they go into their adulting and then they have children, that they actually become more communicative as to why they're doing that. But I think fear probably started at a young age for you. Do you think that it started with mom and dad? Something was triggered from mom and dad, or a family member that maybe transferred to you in a fear? Do you think that maybe happened?
I think so. My dad grew up in a very difficult home, very poor. He would share with us how he wasn't even allowed to have shoes in the summer, had to run paper routes to bring in food money for the family by early as 9 years old, but wasn't even allowed to have shoes because they couldn't afford it, the food they couldn't afford. So my dad was raised extremely poor. and with his 4 siblings. And then in his 20s, the family started a business that then later on ended up being a massive company and corporation in aerospace. So I think the root of origin for me is my grandmother also being so poor all those years, raising children, had an abusive husband. There was all kinds of stuff going on that was fearful in money. And then my grandmother in her 50s became a multimillionaire.
Oh, wow.
And then never talked about it, never mentored any of us, just became very bitter and quiet, and we didn't know her at all. So now my dad is left with the fear base of not having enough, but then being totally responsible and a good provider and cared for us. No conversations ever took place with any of this. So I saw fear on both sides of that.
So how do you think it kind of manifested in you? Do you have any thoughts or ideas about that?
I was afraid to have conversations with people because it was something secretive. I felt that, well, I couldn't ask people for help. You're not supposed to talk about money. You don't ask somebody about money. You don't talk about money. And so I didn't allow myself to get resources or ask questions because I felt like there was almost shame involved in that.
Did mom and dad communicate well about money?
They seem to, the two of them, yes.
Okay.
I never noticed that there was any differences. They seem to work very well and still do to this day. They're very in sync with each other about money. They just didn't share it with us.
Well, and that's very common. You know, many families don't want to talk to their kids about money. I grew up in a European home, and my father was Italian, my mother from Vienna, Austria, and you never talked about money. So it's a miracle that I do what I do, because it literally is, because you would never talk about money with mom. You would never talk about, assets or the house or dying or health or anything like that, because it was taboo. It doesn't have to be taboo anymore, and I think that's where we can start to break down the trend of that, which is so important.
And what I don't understand too with that, I've realized there wasn't any teaching about generational wealth. There was nothing in there that's like, okay, and this is what we'll use for your investment, or how do you pass this on or create generational wealth. But then I learned how to do that for my kids.
Yeah.
My instincts now that's different is, as I'm growing and building and have opportunities come to me, the first thing I can think of is, how can I invest in my kids? How can I help this one start their business, or this one do this, and this one's going to need that, and what kind of things in my residual income can continue to trickle down to my children, and teach them how to use it wisely, have the right advisors like yourself that I'm introducing them to, and say, here's how now that keeps going. I feel like it stopped with my grandmother doing what she did, becoming a millionaire, and then just stopping, and nobody got anything, and died with her.
Oh, wow.
And then my parents being secretive about it, and I still feel, if anything, that my parents have been wonderful to help me when I needed it, but I feel tremendous guilt if they have to help me with something. And I don't want my kids to ever feel that. I want them to know that what I'm working for is going to continue to be in abundance for them.
Well, let's talk about the kid part, So with your children, how do you think that you want to pass down either the education or the legacy, if you will, of generational wealth? How do you want to lead by example? Do you want to have something where you're maybe digging into something a little bit deeper just to talk about this? Because your daughter's the youngest of the four. So is there something more defined with her that you want to work on, or do you want to work with the boys? What do you really want to see happen?
The boys being older, I have one in particular that I realized I want to get him licensed in a certain trade. And so investing him to say, here's the licensing, and here's all my network of resources I'm going to connect you to. Here's the right coaching. Here's the right mentor. Here's the right resource. And I'm going to invest in you in these things so that you can continue create it rather than just give it to him. And my daughter wanting to be more of a scientist, I don't know what I can do except help make sure she's got the education resources, again, mentorship and coaching that she needs, and see what she needs after. The most powerful thing that's changed for me is that reaching out for coaching. So if I can teach my kids to ask for that help, mentoring, coaching, the right advisors like yourself, then I know that generational wealth is going to be handled correctly, but that they're going to create it more. The tools as much as the money to give them to use.
Sure. Well, and this is a money show. Ways to Love Your Money is a money show. It's a respect for money show. And we kind of go into a lot of different stories or threads or wormholes, if you will, to get to that conversation. But with that said, a respect for money, because we're working so hard for money each and every day, because we need to survive, or we need to live, or we need to not live in fear, and everyone has their own definition of that. It's about translating that information now to the next generation and also to ourselves, because, Amy, you've had these feelings for quite some time, right? Yeah. So
Yes, absolutely.
if you've had these feelings for quite some time, then with that little seed that gets planted and you can watch it grow, it's about working as hard as you can, working smarter, but at the same time having an acknowledgement of where that money is going and the decisions that come from it. You have a profession that you do, Amy, and you can talk. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about what you do, because I think even from your coaching standpoint, when it comes to media, you've coached us here with the show, which has been phenomenal. And there's something. We have a saying in our industry that was coined by a couple different people, but if there was something that turned out not to be true, when would you want to find out about it? And I think that's how the coaching floor happens, because, you give me insight to things that I maybe didn't think about before. And I've given you insight to things that you haven't really thought before. So where do you think people should start? Because it doesn't need to just be when they're teens. Of course, it's
Right.
just as important. But we know women that are in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, and they don't have that conscious relationship with money. They might think that someone else is going to take care of that.
Right.
And I think that this is a passion for people to get educated and to really know what their options are. Be great savers, but at the same time, it's about putting a plan together, or putting a goal together. I know that we've talked a lot about these things off camera, Amy, and we've basically come up with a thread of different pieces that maybe work for someone, maybe they don't. But from an empowering standpoint, how do you feel about your relationship with money now versus, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 years ago?
Right.
Where are you in your relationship with money today versus where you were 5 years ago?
The biggest shift for me is I'm allowing myself finally to not think about my money as month to month. I was in a horrible habit, and I identified it for all my adult years. That everything I looked at was that month to month mindset. What do I need this month? Okay, is that enough for next month? I am finally saying, how do I look at this for the next year,
Yeah.
5 years? What am I doing now that is going to afford that, or create that opportunity, or set this aside? For the first time, I'm catching myself still looking at the monthly budget and going, nope, that's just right now. But this monthly budget also is a part of those 5 years and of those 10
Sure.
years. And I think that's been a big shift for me, to allow myself that, which has allowed me to be excited about maybe receiving and taking the fear out that I'm going to make a mistake. Because now I know I can look at it differently.
Now, was there a particular goal that you achieved, or was there something that maybe just gave you that aha moment that said, I want to look at this differently. I want to look at my relationship with money, and I don't want to look at it on the granular level, even though it's important to look at it on the granular level, as far as, monthly or even daily, just to know where your monies are at. But was there something was there a shift? Was there a light bulb that said, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense, and I'm going to do things a little bit different now? Was there something like that? An aha moment?
I started to finally be able to have multiple revenue streams. And then at the same time, allowing those to realize that can fund the other multiple revenue streams, like we talked about even with the book. That's a different revenue stream.
Sure.
I'm making decisions now that need to feed that are going to need to support it, but also knowing it's out there that's going to be a benefit. And looking at my multiple revenue streams, which ones enter the security, which ones do I need to invest in, which ones will pull into savings.
Sure.
And so the aha moment was looking at how can I look at these things instead of always I was paycheck to paycheck or just one resource, and then it felt it was never enough. Going, how can I create multiple revenue streams? And even if I do have to go back to only one, then what am I going to pull from that to invest to create another multiple revenue stream? I had never had multiple anything before.
Well, now you do, which is incredible. I mean, having that multiple resources of income streams, I think, is going to be amazing for you. And in addition, talk to me a little bit about the book, because you have a passion behind the book that you want to share with people. And this was a big surprise for you in the last maybe few months. and now
This
going
is
into
a
20,
huge surprise.
yes. So I would love for you to
COVID,
talk about that.
COVID happened,
Yes.
and I just, I had been coaching and private coaching and was continuing to do that, and professionals being put into a virtual world happened instantly to
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and a lot of people that weren't used to doing virtual meetings like this or interviews or
Right.
just their day-to-day work meetings when they used to go to the office, all of a sudden are in front of a camera and having to stand out and deliver a message.
Yes.
And so I noticed I was getting a little bit more demand. COVID kind of helped me with that. Took an incredible course with some award-winning New York best-selling writers and put together the concepts of how I needed to take this teaching and put it to pen and paper. And I was so
Great.
grateful that taking that fear out, not worrying about what it's going to provide today, but maybe what it could be long term. And 6 weeks later, I had a publishing deal.
Wow.
They said yes, and I was shocked.
Wow.
So now it's a whirlwind ahead of a major worldwide bookstore release and online release in the fall of 2021.
That's exciting. So I know you probably don't want to give away the name of the book yet, right?
Oh, I can.
Oh,
I'm
can
allowed
you?
to say it.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
had a great publisher call this morning. It's Lights, Camera, Action, Media Coaching for Professionals in Today's Virtual World.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting because people need this now more than ever. This is amazing.
Yes.
This is amazing. And so this just kind of fell into your lap. It just happened overnight.
It did, but I was inserting myself, meeting great people in this virtual world, signing up for webinars and coachings and trainings and meeting people that I was seeing at that same level in the space, and it led me down that path. So I think it was being open to seeing what's out there, what opportunities are out there, who can I meet. I'm meeting more people virtually than I ever did when I was in the car, a little bit more.
Wow.
I'm really enjoying that, but it's created opportunities, and also meeting people who are also building businesses, who are also wise with their money, where I'm now letting go of the fear and asking questions. Hey, how are you managing that? What do you do with this? How do you handle this? And I am finally taking that fear off to even ask other people that I respect and admire, that I see doing well, how are you doing it? Would you mind sharing that with me? And I think that has been a big page turner for me as well.
Well, I want to kind of dovetail into something else here real quick, Amy, because you just mentioned something that there was a lot of opportunity for you in the sense that you were starting to talk to more people, you were getting creative, you didn't even probably know that this was going to be the development of it. But there are so many people due to COVID that maybe had the opposite effect, and where they didn't necessarily, continue to work in their same career. They might have permanently lost their job. And you've gotten into a place where you've gotten really creative here. And being that creative, what would you say to someone that's saying, gosh, how do I reinvent myself right now? And where to start? Because I think that's the big thing, is people don't necessarily know where to start. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would start with knowing who you are, what your talents are, whatever industry where you're in, whether you're, incredibly, intellectual and you do analytical work, or whether you're gregarious and out there and do that kind of work. There's something for everyone. And I think going in and maybe starting to find webinars or live rooms where people that are in the same interest as you are at,
Sure.
you're going to find out that somebody may have started a business doing just that, or somebody is, getting access to resources that are about just that. And I think inserting yourself and saying what resources are out there, because there's so much now. There's so many entrepreneurs in every kind of business you could think of, and regardless of your background or where you're from or what your skill was, there's probably some kind of a tool, training, group, live chat, group room that's in Facebook and everything else that you could join to start seeing, wow, there's other people out there like me. Maybe I should connect, reach out and connect, say, can we meet virtually, and start sharing ideas. And just that can be inspiring. It got me excited meeting other people that were making the same decisions, even though they were in different businesses, and we were able to encourage each other. I have friends around the world now that we encourage each other the last 6 months that I didn't even know who they were before then.
That's
and
incredible.
That has created a tremendous opportunity.
That's incredible. I mean, that's an amazing part of the story here, because it is about being creative and everyone's in the same boat. This is not just something in the United States. This is something that's global. Every person, I think it's amazing, Amy, that you even have people that you're talking to around the world now. This is a unique thing. Either people are going to be that unicorn and break out of the mold because of COVID, or some people will just become much more internalized. But we owe it to ourselves to break the mold, to be that unicorn out there, to make sure that we are making a difference, and not only for our families' lives and ourselves, but what about for your community? Amy, you probably were creating some of these thoughts and ideas, not even knowing that it would impact other people. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely agree with
Yeah.
that. I started it by just joining a few webinars and getting connected because, we were home, we were in our yoga pants.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let me see who's out there. Let's see, and then I was thinking, well, gosh, I wonder if I could host any of these. I'm always thinking of ways, how can I have opportunity to insert myself? And what ended up happening was so much bigger with resources, opportunities, trainings, tools, and people that I didn't even know was there. It was a matter of just plugging in. And so a lot of it at the beginning, I was just a listener in the background, which I loved. And then I started being able to join into some live rooms and live trainings, and then got into some new circles that has transformed everything. And everybody has that opportunity at their fingertips right now. And I even joined a group that was women talking about money. And Elizabeth inspired me on that. There was a great chat room, and it was on Facebook, and I got an invite, and I said, I want to jump in there. I want to hear what they have to say. So even something that isn't my comfortable space, I found a resource that I could go in and try to get more comfortable. And now I have new friends that are willing to have those open, honest conversations about money and their past fears of money, because I inserted myself into that group.
Well, Amy, I know we're getting close to running out of time here, but if someone wanted to talk to you about the services that you provide, how could they get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
AmyScruggsMedia.com. And there's even an appointment, make an appointment right at the top.
That's great.
Phone call, consultation.
That's so great.
Make an appointment with me.
Well, I always love having conversations with Miss Amy Scruggs. She's an amazing woman. She's very accomplished. I would definitely Google her name because you'll probably be very surprised by what she's accomplished over her lifetime. She's an amazing, amazing person. But I think the story here today is about pulling yourself into a creative mode and doing things that are not necessarily the most comfortable for you. If money is not your language, maybe you're not your language of love, maybe it's time to become intimate with that conversation and that relationship with money. And if you feel that you're being too secretive, maybe with your family, maybe now is the time to start talking about the reasons why you did certain things or why you're doing certain things to be able to help accomplish, your goals, dreams, and wishes. So beginning of the year, we're in season 5 now, which is great. Most New Year's resolutions are to get your finances in order, your financial house in order. So if that's you, please don't procrastinate because life will get busy before you know it. But take action. Take action now to get more education, whether it's certain things that Amy has suggested that she's done, or even if it's something where you call in for a consultation, or you can go to our site and you can make an appointment on our site as well. So I want to say thank you so much, Amy, for being part of the show. It's always a pleasure to have you.
And thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And
it makes such a difference in so many lives.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we just love you. And keep on subscribing to our show. Just click the subscribe link, and there'll be more shows to come from future shows in the near future. But hold on, we'll be right back. We're going to come back with a couple of questions, and we're going to close out today's podcast of Ways to Love Your Money. Stay tuned. Wow, Amy is just a breath of fresh air. She is a lady that has come a long way, and she has gotten so creative with how she's creating her brand, her name, and the work that she's doing to reinvent herself. And now money is in abundance, and it's coming from many different resources for her. I hope your relationship with money is just as strong. And if it isn't, and now's the time to get a little bit of a tune-up, keep watching these shows, for Ways to Love Your Money or A Moment with Elizabeth or something out there, just so it kind of triggers some thought and knowledge in your mind. Because if you make the investment into your education now, you're only going to be better for it in the long run. And again, thank you again, Amy, so much. You have been an incredible inspiration in my life and also helped with this show. And we couldn't be more proud of you. We do have an audience question, so we're gonna get this one called out to me from Rachel behind the scenes here, and I'm going to try and answer it the best I can.
I am concerned about taxes this year, especially with the stimulus check. Who should I talk to for help?
That's a really good question because most people don't realize that there's going to be taxes associated with the stimulus, with potentially unemployment, and most people weren't putting money aside. If that's you, and that's your concern, now is the time where you should be seeking out a great, tax professional so that they can sit with you, walk with you, talk with you, and go over your scenario. Every fourth quarter, we always talk about doing a fourth quarter plan and go and review your taxes. But sometimes we just, get caught up in the holidays and we forget all about that. There's been a lot more that's been getting in the way of us getting back to the things that are important. But now, do that first quarter review. Start to collect all your tax documents. And I would be saving, because it's going to add to your taxable gross income. If you don't save enough and you've been paying taxes in the past, well, you'll probably be paying more taxes now in the future. So a couple points to remember is that W-2s or 1099s won't come to you probably until the end of January, if not the beginning of February. So you'll want to collect all that tax documentation. In addition to that, if there's any write-offs that you have or mortgage interest or whatever it might be, start to collect all those documents so that you can have a very strong and informative conversation with a tax professional. If you need a little help getting ready for that, that's something that we can do with our firm. You're welcome to give us a call at 619-640-2622. We'll get you on the calendar. We can talk about it for 15 to 20 or 30 minutes, and we can see exactly what your concerns are. And if we can help you with that a little bit more intimately, great. If we can help you get ready to, meet with a really great tax professional, then that would be our love and intention too. So I hope you like the beginning of season number 5. We hope you stayed tuned. We'll be back next week with another episode. And you know what? Let's just cheer on 2021 and let's make it the best year ever. Even amongst the pandemic, let's make it the best year ever. Let's have an intentional new year, and let's have an intentional wish list of goals that we want to accomplish and achieve this year. And our biggest goal should be having a better relationship with money and the respect for what we work so hard for. Let's live abundantly, and let's enjoy life to the fullest. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week. The information provided in this show is for informational and educational purposes only. This show is not investment advice, nor is it intended to address the financial needs of any particular viewer. The opinions expressed on this show are not intended to be an endorsement of any particular investment strategy or service of any other kind. You must make an independent decision regarding investments or strategies mentioned throughout the show. Before acting on information in this show, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular situation and strongly consider seeking advice from a financial advisor.